Right. Just like Carl, I got to dance it out for a little bit. Let that hang out. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Van Opel, Director of Education at Hope for the Day. I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Conversations Cafe, a live mental health podcast where we discuss various intersections related to mental health, because mental health is everything. You're used to seeing Carl Evans, Senior Director of Operations at Hope for the Day, in the host seat for our weekly podcast. Carl couldn't be with us tonight. He asked me to step up and pinch hit, and I couldn't be more honored because I get to really be part of a special conversation tonight, which we're calling Project Red Team Part 2. Project Red Team is something that is very special to me and special to the people that are going to join me here in a little while for a number of reasons, but I'm going to just speak on why it's important to me for a moment. The simple fact that I've gotten to be a part of Hope for the Day's education, that I was given the opportunity to be able to focus on exclusively using my skills for education and connecting with people for mental health, for proactive prevention, to help equip people with language, tools, strategies, for being able to kind of move on to a better way of informing our decisions about mental health, how we talk about it, how we think about it, how we respond to it, and then how we do that for other people too. And building those bridges to better supports and services, because it's so unique, this path to resilience, this path to recovery. But if you're someone out there that has a lot of stigma swirling around you at all times, and no one's telling you that it's possible, that there is hope to be healthy and fulfilled in your life, no matter whatever mental health challenge you're facing right now or faced in the past, they are bullshitting you. And that's why Hope for the Day is such a refreshing thing to hear about when you're in the mental health spaces, because we don't want to wait. Proactive prevention is about not waiting. It's about talking about this conversation as an everyday thing, so it becomes easier. We get better at it, and we're able to help people when things are smaller and more manageable. Just like if you sprain your ankle, or you got a sniffle, or you're trying to make sure you don't get any cavities, you go to the doctor and you stay well proactively. We want to apply that across the board of mental health, since it impacts all of us. We all got a brain, just like we got a heart, and a pair of lungs that we got to keep healthy. But the inadequacies in education about mental health have left us all to kind of figure it out on our own, with silence impacting what we learn, how we learn. And they shape a hierarchy where we are constantly having a pissing contest of pain. There's no pain Olympics. And Project Red Team, in a big way, is hoping to take this conversation and dial it in, make it even more special. Hope for the Day is all about creating platforms. Project Red Team is all about reminding everyone deployed it's okay not to be okay, to have hope. And ultimately, it's a platform and a pathway, a proactive pathway to engage that intersection. And the intersection I'm talking about is the military, first responders, and their families and support systems. The systems we currently have miss way too many people across the board in general, but absolutely to a higher degree in certain high-risk populations like military and first responder communities, where there is a lot of unnatural things that could come with the work, can come with that pledge, can come with raising your hand to give up to your life for your community's safety, to serve what's right, and sacrifice for others. And a lot of times that comes with moral injury, comes with diagnoses, it comes with emotional pain that no one could see and often aren't even willing to understand. Before I bring on the director and the assistant director of Project Red Team, I want to just tell you that as I grew up as a civilian, I didn't have a whole lot of people in my life that were in the service, that were in law enforcement. And due to that lack of proximity, I'm going to kind of quote my man Emmanuel Acho for a second. That lack of proximity to people living that life, experiencing that world, and the unique contributing factors that come with it, well, that was detrimental for my understanding of other people's experiences as a young man. And it wasn't until, my 30s that I started to do a lot of work on myself, and also in turn learn about many other people's experiences. While they may not intersect all the time, there are very relatable things at the core: feeling alone, feeling isolated, feeling overwhelmed, and feeling like you can't tell anybody about it because they're going to have some shitty ideas or judgments to pass on to you because of stigmas that exist and cause a lot of harm in the modern world. Things that make us feel like we can't reach out for help. In learning and listening with that empathy and trying to understand someone else's path helps you fill in perceptual blind spots you had. And I had a bunch of them about what it's like to serve in the military, to be a firefighter, a first responder of any kind. And I think it's really even more illuminating to learn about the fact that when someone deploys, their family, their support network, those people deploy with them as well. And that experience we can learn a lot from as well. So I'm really excited in the growth that I've had personally in listening to stories of people that have served in various branches of the military, both active duty, veterans, as well as their spouses and family members. And I've gotten to know some really, really special people that are using their story, some tremendous pain that they've taken that negative and turned it into a positive. They've tried to take that pain and turn it into jet fuel for others so that they can kind of skip some of the same mistakes. That's what gives other people hope. That's why we break the silence as a community, and that's why we do it in such a direct and peer-to-peer way with Hope for the Day proactive prevention. It's okay not to be okay are simple words that cut right to the heart of the matter. They run counter to everything we were told growing up. And they've definitely resonated across the community. I started as a volunteer at Hope for the Day, and now look at me. And I know that Kenedey and Ryan, who I'm about to bring on, that have championed this program over the last 2 years and helped build what it is, well, they are total badasses in their own right, and they've taught me so much. And this is kind of our baby. So without further ado, Ryan, Shannon, can you pop on your voice? I know that you can't join us by video today. And then I would also like to invite Kenedey to turn on her video and audio so we can get this chat going tonight. Because that's enough for me. That's my intro. Okay. Can I hear you? Can I hear you, Ryan? All right.
I'm here.
Kenedey, I can see you. I can hear you. Do the old Carl sound check. So for the first section of the show tonight, folks, we want to really give you a clear focus as to what Project Red Team is and what to expect, not only in the coming week, but we're also going to expect a super cool announcement on this program tonight. Before we do that, we're going to introduce another wonderful member of the team that was on the podcast last week for a special Halloween celebration. So that's cool. I'm excited to bring that friend back on. But Ryan, I want you to first kind of let me know how this started for you and me. Let's go all the way to about that point where you were like, all right, Mike, you're the dude that's going to help me make this happen. Like, what was going through your head?
Yeah, absolutely. First off, I apologize for no video. I've been bedridden for 2 days with a medical issue, so that's why you can't see me. So I'm coming live straight from my bed right now.
We're so glad you're here.
So I appreciate that. But yeah, where this all started, it started with my own issues. I used music a lot to kind of get back on my feet, which is a little ironic because my story centers around I have incomplete paralysis and a chronic pain condition in my left foot and ankle. And doctors came in just like a movie with a clipboard and looked at me and my wife and was like, you're never going to run again. And walking is going to be difficult and so on and so forth. And I I believed him for a week. That's when or for about 2-3 weeks, I'd say. That's when I went down to the bottom, and I became suicidal. I had my suicidal ideation. I made my plan, wrote my letter. My wife intervened, and I came out of it. And then from that point forward, I was like, all right, they told me I can't run again. And if you knew me before now, you know, running was my life. Running was my outlet without knowing what an outlet was. That's how I dealt with my problems. I threw music on and I went and ran. Well, I found that music kept motivating me to get through the physical pain that I was experiencing, trying to learn to walk and things like that again. And I wanted to bring that to other veterans, first responders, so on and so forth, because I eventually joined the Warrior Games. Our friend Sadie will be on later. That's where me and Sadie met. I eventually became a part of Team USA for the Invictus Games, got a silver medal in track. So fuck you, doctors. Here you go. Here's my medal. You guys said I couldn't do it.
Eat it.
The proof. Got the proof right here. So I came home back to Illinois, started my own nonprofit, buried it after about a year because I had no fucking clue what I was doing. I had people in the wrong spots. It just wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't accomplishing anything. But through the networking process is where I found hope for the day. I remember coming in and talking to you guys, and I left with this giant bag of badass t-shirts and shit. And I was like, hell yeah. Like, these are the dudes. So after I buried my nonprofit, we kept in touch, and I was like, hey, let's do this with your infrastructure. You guys already got it all down. You're doing it way better than I possibly could. And the idea, the proactive side of everything was way better than anything I had coming into this. And so for 2 years, me and Mike kind of sat back, and we just kind of built this thing, and we kept coming back to each other like, you think it's ready? And we're like, nope, not ready. Through that journey, I was looking at all the other nonprofits that I either was a part of or tried to be a part of, and I realized that there's a lot of prerequisites that there's a lot of boxes you had to check to get their services, which makes sense. There's not a whole lot of funding in some of these. So I was like, we shouldn't have any prerequisites, you know? Let's do this the right way. Suicide doesn't give a fuck who you are. We aren't going to give a fuck where you served, who you served with, anything. There's nothing. Color, skin, religion, creed, everything. We don't care. If your mental health is affecting you, get in here, because this is the group for you. We're not a bunch of Navy SEALs, although we welcome them. We're not a bunch of elite operators. We're not, I would say, crazy special agents, but we have those in here now. But your story is worthy. What you've gone through, it matters. Most of my service was standing on watch for 4 to 8 hours a day, and that was boring as hell. And that I did the same shit most of these veterans and stuff that we're talking to did. And it's okay. Nobody gets to describe your trauma or identify that for you. So we aren't going to put anybody in a box here. We're going to let everybody be open, free, come in and talk. But there's also a lot of stories that I can't tell because I only lived one side of the house. You know, I only have my story.
Right.
And I think that was the most important thing, was if I can go be confident telling my story, even though it's not this crazy action movie you would see on a big screen, maybe that'll raise some of the voices of some of these other people who are having issues and they don't feel like the shit they're going through is worthy enough to bring to the forefront. In reality, you're allowed to be fucking selfish with your mental health. It's your mental health. And we want to hear it. We want to hear those stories. And the Facebook group's working. This week, again, we had a close friend of mine from overseas in another country came in. He was just like, hey, anybody here to talk? Boom. An hour later, there's 35 comments of people. He texted me back. He's like, yo, I feel so much better now, you know? I was like, yeah, that's it. And it wasn't anything crazy. He was asked by a civilian, have you ever killed anyone before? And Kenedey can chime in with her catchphrase there. But those types of questions, they don't come from a place where somebody's trying to be mean or evil or anything like that. They come from ignorance. People don't know that you can't ask those questions, because if you do, And for the people that have done those things, you aren't going to like the answer. Why do you want to hear that story? Like there's all kinds of different things that go on out there. And we've got a lot of people, a lot of veterans, a lot of first responders in here that are coming up on happy hours and things like that. And some of their stories and the things are heartbreaking, but the resiliency behind it after the fact is so fucking incredible that it just lifts me up every time.
Agreed. And I think you nailed like that. You couldn't just tell your story over and over again. You wanted somebody to help kind of fill in some of those additional gaps that you and your family had identified, like through that hardship, through that challenge. And you wanted to save people that headache. You wanted to help people learn. And Kenedey kind of stepped in to this role to bring that spouse perspective, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. That, and not only is her story incredible, but we're learning new things about Kenedey as this process goes. So yeah, me and Kenedey and Mike are up here at the forefront leading this thing, but as this goes, we're sharing more and we're starting to become more comfortable with our own stories, which I think is super cool. It may look like we're the ones up here super confident in this and that, but Kenedey said it before. I've never heard you say that about your story. And she's heard my story many times. And the same with her, as I'm learning more and more about her, same with Mike, so on and so forth. And I think that's super important too. This shit doesn't happen overnight. You aren't going to wake up and be like, today's the day I'm going to stand up here in front of 100 people and it'd be super vulnerable and tell this story. That I'd say it takes practice, but I wouldn't even call it practice. It just takes the ability to start understanding what you're going through and what you went through and where you're at now.
I think practice is a fine word, man. It's kind of like, we'll come back to this for sure, but Warrior Games, Invictus Games, you and Sadie, who you guys are going to meet in a little while, you had to train for that sort of thing. And that's really what we're after, is trying to create a retraining experience, an app update, if you will. And so we needed that crucial piece of, hey, let's hear it from a spouse, right? So Kenedey, I think that's a perfect place for you to introduce yourself and kind of tell some people about the assistant director of Project Red Team, Kenedey Ward. What's up?
Yeah, so my name's Kenedey Ward. I was married for 5.5 years to a infantryman in the Marine Corps. We got married when I was 18 and we hit every military statistic you could think of. We got married, I was pregnant. We lived in North Carolina, where he was stationed at Camp Lejeune. And I'm sure TMR, as he comes on here, will give me great praise for that. And we were there for about 3.5 years. And during that time, he experienced a physical injury on his arm that was completely out of his control in a training accident. And that just continued to kind of shape our experience of him on active duty, the lack of attention and care from supervisors. One of my favorite topics is toxic leadership, just the leaders not really instilling in this young guy how to navigate the Marine Corps as someone who didn't even get the chance to kind of start their career before it was dictated for them. And so he deployed when about 5 days before our oldest son was born, and we tried to navigate being, less than 2 years married and him deployed and raising a baby. And then he came home and they were like, hey, listen, we're kicking you out because, well, you're broken and we can't fix you. So as he navigated out of the military, we were 20, he was probably 22. I was maybe 20, maybe he was 23, maybe I was 20. I definitely wasn't old enough to drink. That's for sure. Cause I probably would have, but the process of getting out was just this. I didn't know who he was anymore. I didn't know who I was. We were trying to figure out whether we should stay where we were. Should we go across the country and start something new? Should we go home to our family? And what people, from my perspective, the military really hones in on we want the service member to get all these pamphlets and attend all these meetings and do this and do that and do all of these things. But then simultaneously, he's experiencing a mental health crisis that we didn't know at the time. And so I'm asking these questions, trying to translate this information, and it wasn't coming along. So in the process of him getting out, we spent a couple years just living as civilians. And it just got to the point where we weren't taking care of ourselves, and it ultimately led to our separation and eventual divorce. And now we co-parent, and he has a beautiful daughter with a new girlfriend, and they're very happy. And it's crazy that what I thought was the craziest and hardest part of my entire life ended up being the catalyst to what I wanted to do. So I myself live with mental illness. I have clinical depression and anxiety. And then I have complex PTSD related a lot to grief. And so that grieving process was just crazy to me, that, you're living this one styled life from the time, I graduated high school in June of 2013, and I was married that December. And my story isn't like, that's not uncommon in the sector of time and in the military, especially in the Marine Corps. Right. And so, when we separated, I left for Clemson University, did the whole commuting back and forth thing while I was in school, and ended up landing a grant through the president's office, through a Navy veteran who's the chief of staff of the university. And I basically came to him and I said, listen, this community deserves better. And I feel like I'm at a place where I can use my story to help others. And so I navigated the veteran space, helping to advocate to expand the campus resources. I interned at Student Veterans of America. I started at Hope for the Day, actually, right after I got out of the mental hospital in 2005. In 2015. I probably should have been in the mental hospital in 2005. 10 was a tough age. And so when I started volunteering, I went on a Warped Tour for a couple of dates. And then I just kind of did some stuff from afar. And when I got out of college, Carl messaged me and was like, hey, listen, Project Red Team is this thing that these really two badasses are working on. And I think your perspective could really help shape some stuff. So we started out on a Google Doc where Mike and Ryan and I were just brain dumping. And I was talking to these two guys on the phone that I really didn't know that well, but it was a crazy experience that they were listening to what I was saying and appreciating it and taking it into context as they started to shape this program. And so I graduated in August, technically, from Clemson, moved back to Virginia full-time, landed a job. I'm a visual information specialist at the Marine Corps full-time. And as I got to know Ryan and Mike a little bit more, I kind of was like, let's do this. What do we need to do next? And so we kind of worked behind the scenes on, what did we want this to look like to the public? What did we want people to get out of this? And ultimately it came down between the three of us that we just wanted to be a resource that we didn't have in our stories, that led us to go through those complex, traumatizing experiences that we thought would be the reason we failed. And ultimately they're serving as the things that are helping us to succeed at least for me, a higher capacity than I would have ever anticipated. The people that I talk to on a daily basis all have some sort of affiliation with Project Red Team. And going from, in my divorce, I've lost everyone and everything. And so to think that that is the catalyst to what brought me everything I have now just makes it so easy to pop into that group and drop a meme or tap into some resources and share to people. Like Ryan said, we had somebody, Eric, come in and tell his story a little bit the other day, but we've also had other people reach out to us in private messenger and tell us we've saved a life. We've had people come in educations and tell some of the deepest, darkest parts of themselves that literally only they shared because we shared our story and because we opened up a place for them to come and be comfortable and to find themselves. And it's crazy. We had a clinical psychologist on our happy hour, which we do bi-weekly, last night. And he was saying, moral injury is this idea that something you expected to happen didn't. And then if you're looking at it from a military perspective, maybe sometimes that's you were deployed and you turned right when you should have gone left and something happened in that experience. And sometimes it's you went into the military with this mentality, this idea, of what it would be, and camaraderie is literally the only thing that kept you going. And so that's what we've been able to build in Project Red Team in this short period. Ryan, it's been what, like 3 months, if that? July, yeah.
I think July.
We've got almost 500 members in this community. We're probably, absolutely going to announce something huge tonight. We have incredible people like Sadie, who's getting ready to come on and just show that beautiful face of hers. And we've just gotten to do such cool stuff. And it's on the basis of wanting to save lives in a community of people who feel like because they put their life on the line, they don't have a right to advocate for their own life. And so getting to really, I don't know, I've always said that if I could be anything for the rest of my life, a profession, I would want to be a professional hype man. And I feel like being in this role allows me the opportunity to not only make really cool graphics and get to meet such incredible people, but I also get to just sit on the sidelines and pick up the awesome pieces that I see of people and just throw it back at them. So they have to give themselves some self-love. So
yeah.
Yo, speaking of
reciprocity. Yes.
Speaking of hype man, my mom just texted me. She has all my emails from when I was deployed. She shared one with me. That's awesome.
That's
hyping me up over
moms are the hype, the hype ladies.
For sure.
The quintessential hype person is a mom, right?
Dude, when my kids get older, if they're like playing sports and stuff and like another kid like messes with them,
You're gonna be that one.
Listen, I will rock, paper, scissors you and make you feel like you should be nicer.
Rochambeau. And you know what? I think you hit on something that's really special too, is that we get this reciprocal kind of fulfillment in this work, in that you never realize the power that your painful experience can hold for somebody else until you kind of take that leap of faith and you say, hey, yeah, it's okay to talk about mental health. It's okay to raise the visibility and show people that, hey, this is a human thing. We all go through this shit. Stress is the silent killer. And you're all you got different thresholds of sensitivity, folks. It's a fact of the matter. It's our biology and our perception.
That's your mentality, baby.
Oh boy. And so, shitting on other people's pain, it's not doing any good. And there's a long history of that. So we're all about, let's do that different. Let's do it different. Let's shatter the hierarchy that has been shaped over time that kind of puts us on this totem pole of who's more serious pain, who's less serious pain, when in fact we should be looking at more visible, less visible experiences and not being judging it at all, because pain is relative. I think that we are getting to a place now with our education happening each month and our group providing a digital community to feel connected, because connection is the currency of wellness, folks. Getting together with
Mike dropping Instagram quotes here.
Well, so Dr. Schumacher, Matt, that was on the happy hour last night, he mentioned your tribes and how sometimes when shit is really bad, it causes you to reevaluate your relationships, not just with sleep, not just with your nutrition and exercise, not just with how much you're drinking or smoking or whatever, but also your relationships with people or lack thereof, and maybe needing to kind of take some steps to find out, hey, is there some more tribe out there for me? Is there a different group of people that maybe is going to help me be healthier and more fulfilled if I surround myself with those people? And I feel like I get that from the interaction I have with you and Ryan, but I also get it from the group. And as somebody that just wants to support raising up the peers' voices from this community, I didn't expect to feel so supported and so accepted by it either, being like a civilian outsider for so long. And that's the strength in listening. That's the strength in saying, hey, I see you, I hear you, and I'm going to validate that what you're saying was hard and it hurts you. If we do that more for people, instead of just trying to, tell people to pick themselves up by the bootstraps and all that shit, we're going to inject a whole lot of humanity into how we approach this problem.
Well, I think that's where Ryan was successful in his mentality in building this program with you, was that not only was he building this program with someone who had no idea about the community, but he was willing and open to saying, hey, listen, the structural components, let me put in what I know here. And he said it to me multiple times, which is why I feel so reassured in this role, is that he didn't just run with it. He strategically made and took all the steps that he did because he knew, and I know, and which was why it was so nice to come into this welcoming area. And when Sadie comes on, what I love that she plugs every time is that, she ran on a hamster wheel with so many organizations and programs for so long that of just like not clicking right. And that's where I think Project Red Team made the difference for me, is that, with Ryan being such a the founding member for this program, he knew that these perspectives were important. because when we're bringing intersections together, especially when we're talking about military, one of the biggest issues is that people get out and they feel like the civilians don't understand them. And then civilians, the military are getting out and they're like, well, you think I don't understand you and I'm scared to talk to you to try and understand you. So like, where do we meet in the middle? And so being able to bring perspectives like mine and peers like you who are willing to just listen and take in the information and then execute it out the way that they can, I think that's what makes the program so successful, is we take the foundational pieces of Hope for the Day and we're able to translate it through all of our different worldviews into this one space of just like, come to the grocery store of support and love and take off what the shelf you need and come back when you're ready.
Yeah, that's nice. I love that. And before we bring on Sadie here, I just wanted to direct everybody's attention. Last week, we did a Halloween episode, and Conversations Cafe happens at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time on Thursdays, broadcasting live on conversationscafe.org. And if you are looking for the episodes to listen to as they come out on audio podcasts, you can find them at Anthologies of Hope. Anthologies of Hope and aux podcast families host all of those audio podcasts, so you can actually hear the episode that Sadie was on last week. Sadie, you want to come join us and hop in on this conversation so people can get to know you a little bit? Can we see you? Can we hear you? Sadie Strong.
Hi.
Hey, what's up? How are you?
How are you?
Look at that creature. We just love her.
Glad you're here. Glad you're here.
Creature.
I hope you had really like a wonderful time. I did last week, goofing around, but also trying to have a positive impact on our communities through those conversations. What was your experience like last week on Conversations Cafe?
I loved last week. And I loved last week mostly because I think we were focusing so much on plugging like what you're doing mentally for yourself that brings like an ease, or just like doing something that brings you enjoyment and takes your mind off whatever it is that your mental health is going through. And I loved the makeup. I think that was awesome. I liked self-expression. And I think people don't realize a lot too, that even if it's not makeup, even if it's your outfit or something else, and then with me, it's art, it brings so much light back into you, and it's just great. And I loved watching everybody do that.
Yeah. And we got to see you share some of your crafts as a baker. You make cookies, don't you?
I do. Yes.
And what kind of cookies? What kind of cookies we talking?
Those aren't just cookies. Those are art. That's what that is.
Ryan refuses the idea of eating them.
I wouldn't eat it. I'd frame it.
I don't know how you could, because I want to not only taste the ingredients, but also the love and dedication I know she puts into them.
For sure.
To say you ate an Avett Brothers face, who else could literally?
And it's funny. I have people I don't know. It is weird because sometimes I'll make something for myself. I made a Yoda cookie once, and I made a Deadpool cookie for my stepson, and they don't eat them. And then I was like, I'm not eating Yoda. I'm not doing it. I love Yoda, and me eating him is I just can't kill him. But other people too, they'll get them and be like, oh, I knew I ordered cookies from you, and I knew I ordered the Avett Brothers, but I wasn't expecting when that order in specifically, she texted me randomly and was like, hey, can I get 10 banjos? I know this is last minute, but I need them in 2 days. And I was like, 2 days? I usually need 2 weeks because I usually have to plan my schedule. And she said banjos. And I was like, what the heck you want 12 banjos for? That's so weird. And she ended up saying, oh, just Avett Brothers. So I was like, oh, do you trust me to do my own artistic spin to this? And she was like, yeah, that's fine. I was just giving them to a friend. We're going to their concert. So I was like, okay, solid. I've been to a concert of theirs before with a mutual friend. So I was like, I'm just going to go wing it. And that's what it turned into. But no, I just like making cookies, and I turned it into a small business because it was just something I like to do in my spare time. And now it's one of those things where it's also a job too now. So it's this scale of love to do it, and then I'm gotta find the time. So
yeah, well, it was really cool to have you involved in talking about self-expression, because self-expression is everything when it comes to understanding mental health in a different way. That's what we're out to achieve, right? Is making sure that people just scrub everything away, because it's all bullshit. Everything you were told about your mental health, pretty unhelpful in most cases, and if we start to say, oh, okay, my mind's like a bottle of soda and things are getting shook up and that pressure's building. And our ultimate goal is to not explode, because that's really when stuff starts to impact those around us. So that valve, that release of that pressure, be it baking, be it going to the range, because I know you're a sharpshooter. I mean, or just any type of artistic modality, multimodal kind of, expression is just something that is so undervalued in the grand scheme of things when it comes to like dealing with your own mental health challenges. And I think it's been super freeing for me to think of mental health that way, because when the bad shit starts to kind of like fill up my mind, I start to like kind of champion my music making or my writing or my drawing or whatever, even cleaning to some degree, something where I can exert a little bit of control and let a little pressure out. I start to think of it as these talismans to fight back with what I know will likely be good feelings based on how much I usually enjoy those things. So that when it's not working, I'm like, all right, I got to call Ryan. I got to call Kenedey. I got to vent to somebody that's just going to let me vent, and not try to fix it, not try to give me that advice or be like, come on, look how good you got it. All that shit that can be very spiritually bypassing. And, so it was really.
So that's a big one, Mike, is that with my own family, when I came home, it was, this will get better. And I was like, this is permanent. Like I fully understood, like this isn't something that's just going to go away. And they didn't know how to deal with that, So I think it kind of like isolated me from my own family. And that was a big part of, they're learning, they're coming around and they're learning more and more about all this stuff. But two, like it helped me realize that they're not bad people. They just didn't know. They didn't know how to handle somebody coming back in the condition I came in, And like you said just then, that definitely piqued my brain, because it's still something I'm working on today, is like, how do you communicate to those closest to you that this thing isn't just a temporary thing? It's been 6 years now. Like this isn't going away, and there's highs and lows, and it kind of helps me feed into Project Red Team, because I use my family as an example in that they didn't really know what to do. And I don't think a lot of veterans and first responders that take that uniform off for the last time, I don't think they know what to do. And I think that's a big deal when it comes to the mental health and suicide stuff. Sorry, that's a tangent, but yeah, like
It's
that just brought me into that. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I'm sure Sadie could echo that. She's had experiences
100%,
parallel
because
to that.
when I got out of the military, and like with mine too, I always felt like I, fell into the whole stigma thing of, wow, I got out of the military. I wasn't in for very long. And then when we did warrior games together, you'd get into like these interviews or something, or somebody would come up to you and be like, oh, well, what happened to you? You look fine. Like what do you mean you're a wounded veteran? And I'm like, oh, well, do you really want to talk about it? Or like, and then I would just be like, yeah. And then it would come, and then I would just be like, I'd be like, okay, fine. Like, this is the 6th time you've asked me. So yeah, actually, I'm here because I got sexually assaulted. And then it was done. They like would shut down. They were like, oh, it just was like this weird thing of, and I mean, now I'm used to it. I don't care if you want to hear it or not. I'll just let you know, because I'm so passionate about like fixing that problem. It's an issue in the military. It's an issue in real world. But it was just always weird with the military, because it was like, oh, I don't have a physical injury, but mental injuries, they just now, I feel like, are more accepting and taking that in. That's an actual issue. Like that's a huge problem, and that you can talk about it. And it just was like a weird, but when I came home, I've always had super supportive parents, but it was like, they didn't know what to do. And I moved home. I lived in the basement because, once I left the house, they changed my room to the gym, which is actually where I'm at now. And so I just lived in the basement for a while, and, they were like, well, are you going to go back to work? Are you going to go do something? And no, I just kind of kept to myself, because it was like then it was weird because they're like, oh, well, like my brother and my dad, well, we're men. Like, how is she with men now? It was just a whole thing. So yeah, I just really relate to like people even civilian. Yeah, I guess, because I don't know. It was very.
Would you say that would you say that you didn't know what to do? That because I got the same questions. Like, are you going to go to work? Are you going to go to school? What are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know what the fuck to do. I'm trying to figure out how to live life like this now, and all this extra stuff that I should be doing, I'm not doing, and I felt guilty about it. And then I just forced myself into school without really a direction.
Same. And then it was like the whole.
It didn't go too.
So I
the beginning, so
I've no.
I don't know what happened there, but I think Ryan turned into a robot.
Yeah.
And I think you know, we got a new friend, and this is going to go along with some of the excitement of announcements and stuff like that. But I think we want to bring Ray on here to get in on this conversation too, because I think he has some valuable perspective on that too from his own intersection. So Ray, are you able to join us? Can we see you? Can we hear you?
Yes, you can. I'm in the house. What's up, everybody? How you doing?
What's up? We got the Marine rapper.
Yeah.
Boo,
What's
boo, boo,
up?
boo, boo. Hey, how you doing, man?
We need one of them horns.
Yeah, I'll get my soundboard up.
Let's get it.
So basically, I wanted to see if any of that's hitting with you, man. Did you feel that same kind of situation with your family? Like they didn't know what they didn't know, so it was really hard for them to help?
No, they didn't know anything, which is probably not good. It was probably not good. The only thing is the other day, my sister was telling me, she's like, yo, you've changed over these last couple of years after, you got into music and stuff. Like when you first got back from deployment, you were an asshole. And I said, what? I was just like, she's like, yeah, you were just, I could just tell you're just aggressive all the time. But it was like, that was my coping mechanism, because I knew that I was over in a place where it was like dog eat dog, you know what I mean? Like it was beast, you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, where were you, Ray?
They died. Oh, I was in Habanilla, right by Fallujah.
Okay.
So that was a bad area. And then I was over by Kandahar. So two hot places there, both with infantry and stuff. So it just was a place where I always had to keep my head on the swivel, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because you never knew what could happen at any time. I know like some good Marines who just didn't pay attention one time and they got sniped. You know what I mean? So it's just like, just a second. And I'm like, yo, that dude was way more badass than me. Why am I here?
Yeah.
Like, and it literally came down to like the muscle memory of training of like loading the magazine and like always looking around, like literally. And I think about it, I'm just like, yo, why am I here? Yo, that dude was hella dope and he got picked off. Like that means it don't matter what you look like, how big, how small, how short, how tall, they're always gonna like look for you. So I had to have that mentality to protect myself. So even when I just got back to the States, I still was in this like warrior mindset. Like I couldn't go around malls and be around groups of people and stuff like that. Like we was the social distancing champions, the combat vets. We started this. You feel me?
You started this.
I think it's so fascinating that you bring up.
Thank you for saying that, man.
That hypervigilance aspect of it, because I feel like for people, especially who are at a place as they're transitioning out, especially, law enforcement and first responders too, those are those moral injury aspects. They're also effects of other things that occur, but those are the things that we're not taking into consideration and things that these conversations that we're building within Project Red Team are bringing to light. Because I remember when I was married, we couldn't go anywhere where his back was facing the door. And I'm gonna be real honest, circa whatever year that was, Kenedey was real ignorant and it used to piss me off. It used to make me so mad that we could not just genuinely just go into a restaurant and sit down, because sometimes the kids were screaming and yelling and they didn't want to sit on that side. And it was just this whole thing. And how simple would it have been for me to hear a proactive education presentation where someone is like, no, I experienced this. Like, this is where this is. Because sometimes I feel like even talking to strangers, which is why our group works so well, even if your family members are in there, helps, because there's no judgment going into it. Or if there is judgment, you don't feel that pressure because it's not someone you necessarily care about or love right off the bat, which is why I think TMR's lives work so well when he does them, because he brings in people from different perspectives and different ideas that are coming in and literally just having human to human conversation.
Hell yeah.
And that's where we're missing the mark when we're talking about veteran and first responder mental health, is that we're waiting until it gets to the point where the family members are drifting apart, or marriages are ending, or kids aren't growing up with their parents relative, like aware and with them the way that they should be, because these conversations aren't happening. So by bringing in this tribe mentality, by bringing in people who are, you know, telling their stories, because I'm sure there are people who have a hypervigilant aspect. I'm sure Sadie has a hypervigilant aspect, and her story is completely different than Ray's. And so by bringing in and recognizing that we can all relate on a human reaction level, not necessarily the surface reaction level that we've kind of built as a society, it literally makes all the difference in the way that we're able to see ourselves and exist within a room of people, and exist just in a room by ourselves as well, for sure.
And walk with me for a little bit on this real fast, because Ryan, did you want to cut in? Because I want to ask about Sadie. I want to ask Sadie and Ray the same question, but go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, before we get off the topic, that hypervigilant thing, and Ray, tell me do you still encounter it? Because I know I've had conversations with my wife before where, like, if there's a mass casualty situation and I'm in that area, I'm either dead or we stop that person. Like, I think the military ingrains that stuff in you to where you run towards the danger. You don't back away. And if you do back away, it's just to find cover until you can assault forward, you know? Do you, Sadie or Ray, do you guys still feel that same way as well? Like I do. I've had these conversations where I'm like, if I'm at a Walmart, if something pops off there, there's no running out of Walmart for me. I know that's not an option anymore. I know it's either I'm stopping said attacker or they're getting me, you know?
I think I'm gonna hide.
You're gonna
That's
hide?
not me. But I think Robbie is 100%. I know he's that way. So maybe that's him too.
How does that affect you then? Because I know that messes my wife's mental health up.
Cody was the exact same way.
Did I just drop a question you didn't want to think about,
No.
Sadie? I'm so sorry.
I think with Robbie, honestly, just because he's just a big personality on his own anyway. And I think I've just gotten used to the fact that he thinks he can do literally anything and that he's unstoppable. So now I'm just like, yeah, I mean, that it is what it is. Like, I've just gotten used to him. That's how he is. Like,
I'm just imagining Robbie running out of a burning house with like babies in his hands like this. Like, I just saved him. And Sadie's like, I procreated with that guy.
Well, and for everybody listening at home, Robbie's your spouse, right?
Yes, he is my husband now. He's also another wounded veteran.
Correct.
We met at Invictus Games. He was in the Army, worked on the border. He was going after a group of people. He ran into a tree. Long story. It ripped his arm out. He was paralyzed for a couple of years. Now, super long story short, his right arm and shoulder, it's slowly going away, but he is able to use it now, minimally. But
he has a device like I use on my leg. So very similar.
Cool. That's awesome. And, maybe at some point we'll get Robbie up in here too, because I feel like I know him from just talking to you guys about him. But when you guys were, training for Invictus Games together and Warrior Games and things of that nature, did you catch any, I don't know if you were baking at that time or, but when you started to develop baking as an outlet, Sadie, and for you, Ray, when you started thinking, hey, I'm going to rap, did you guys get some reactions from the people in your life? Like where's this coming from? Or any, did anybody kind of give you any flack about just trying to totally reinvent yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause imagine you're in the Marine Corps, right? Yeah. And they're like, oh, okay, combat arms and stuff like that. You're definitely going to be a security guard, like Friday or something, so you're going to be a security guard. And, my boss was like, hey, yo, what are you going to do when you get out? And I'm like, I'm a rap. He's like, no, for real. What are you going to do? And I was just like, I'm going to rap. I'm gonna be the Marine rapper. He's like, okay, yeah, right. so it's ironic because it's kind of like one of those Spider-Man things where a bad thing you actually turn a bad thing into a good thing and that motivates you for the rest of your life. So because that individual said that, it fuels me daily, and then it becomes a funnier joke on a daily basis because I'm just like, I told you guys, I told you. And I'm kind of glad he said that because it made me want to prove them wrong. You can do anything, just how Sadie was talking about her spouse. It's that's an issue that I dealt with too. I felt like I could do anything. like, and mind you, I'm 5'11", 150. Like, but like I had no fear, like for real. Like we had no fear, like going into a building. 4 Marines going in a building, 4 those egos could like span America. Like we have the biggest. Yeah, and Kennedy can tell you, we have these huge Marines have huge egos. Like
That's one of the things.
She's trying to paint that picture for me. Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
and
so
I think that's what I love about being in this space is that working in the veteran space, like I don't care who I'm with. If I'm walking in, I'm not worried. I don't like I don't feel safer than when I am with the people who I know through veteran spaces or I know have some sort of military, first responder, law enforcement, because I'm just like, I don't do confrontation. It actually makes me want to curl up a ball and never talk to another human being in my life again. And so to be in a community of people like that, but also that's what I think is great about my perspective is like we talked about in happy hour, when you're ingrained with this idea of fight or flight and your fight gauge is on all the time, to be able to have someone who's terrified of fucking spiders and shit like myself to come in and kind of be like, okay, well, like this is what it can maybe look like from the outside. Then people are like, oh my gosh, yeah, that wasn't my intention in presenting myself or what I wanted to get across or what I wanted to do. And that's what I think makes self-expressive so positive is you're bringing people like with cookies and with music to this place of, okay, we agree that we love cookies and we agree that we love music. And for Ryan, we agree that we love running. Now we can have these conversations because we, no matter where this goes, we're going to relate to something on the other end.
I used to love
like,
running.
That's what, you used to love running?
Yeah.
What I was going to say,
I used to.
And what I was going to say was just like, once you find your calling and once you find your niche, you get even more confident in that. And then you don't need to really kind of like rely on that old identity. Like I used to just rely on that identity of being like a war fighter, a killer, like all the time. And when I started getting this new identity and stuff as like just a musician, then I was just like, okay, I'm good. So I don't know if you guys seen X-Men, like you seen Cyclops? You know Cyclops, right?
Yeah, Cyclops,
the guy with the laser from his eyes, right?
Yeah.
So like what happens when you don't have no glasses on? It goes everywhere, right? All the action goes everywhere.
Hell yeah.
It was like I still have that mentality. Like I'm still ready. If something went down, like my mind just automatically goes to that. But it's more like I'm Cyclops with the glasses on as a civilian now. Okay. You know what I'm saying? I'm more like focused. Like I can be like, I'm just chilling with you guys in a Zoom chat. I don't need to be like extra, extra aggressive. I don't have to like prove that I'm the baddest man on earth. Like, when we're overseas and when we're deployed, like now it's just like, yo, what's up? I'm cool. I'm chill. I'm Raymond. I don't have to be my rank or anything like that. I'm just Ray, So I don't feel like that stuff, I don't feel like that hypervigilance goes away, but I do feel like you can control it and be more aware of it and know when to bring it in and when to bring it out. It's all about balance. Because that's who you become, period. That's like you become that type of individual because of all those training and years of just being so militant that it doesn't necessarily go away. I still am cognizant of people around me, but I'm just not going to freak out at them all now.
Do you think so? I have a question on that for both you, Sadie, and Ryan. Do you think that having that self-expressive platform and navigating avenues that the traditional veteran doesn't navigate, so like you said, that is a big thing in infantry battalions, is that, you go out and be a security guard or a police officer or something, which is great because that's what works for some people, especially if you're kind of that fixer mentality that a lot of people have. Do you find that this creative outlet that you found that almost people doubted, or in your case, you just kind of thought was like, okay, this is completely out of the box. Do you think that has helped you to be asymptomatic at times that you were symptomatic before, simply because it was your space to navigate what your comfort? So like, for instance, if I like to clean, if I get anxious and then I get to go clean, it's nice to like let that out. Do you think that creative avenue helps to deal with the symptoms that you would say you carried over from your service, Sadie, and then Ray?
Good question. So are you basically asking if you think that that's helped, like me decorating cookies has helped with my certain issues or whatever? I would say that in the beginning, yeah. And even sometimes now, if I'm doing something that's for me, like a lot of the times lately, what I've been doing is I make a bunch of blank canvas cookies because my background mainly is art. Like I've been great at drawing or painting or literally whatever you want it to be. So I've just been creating canvas cookies is what I call them. I don't know if anyone else does that. And what I'm trying to build up to is just like certain holidays or like coffee day or just silly stuff like that, or artists that I like, or just things that I think are important. I start making these little cookies, and I'm not doing anything with them except for photographing them. But I do think at night, like if I'm doing it for myself, I feel so much better. It's like an outlet for me that I'm like, okay, this is really cool. I know nobody else is even doing this, and I just like doing it because it's different. And I feel good because nobody can tell me that I'm doing it wrong. And it's just my fun little way. So yeah, I would say it definitely helps, especially when I'm like getting into like a depressive state and thinking like, oh, look, here I am. I'm home again, not really doing anything. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I can at least do this. And this is cool. And this is awesome. But yeah, I do think it's helped a lot.
You didn't catch any flack from the people you served with about baking? They weren't giving you a hard time about it?
I think they stopped giving me hard times because I'm the kind of person that I have something new, honestly, monthly that I'm doing. So it's always been like, oh, you know what? I'm going to start this business. I'm going to start this business. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I always do that. And like, even with my cookie thing, like it is turned in, I don't talk about it because I'm like, feel like I jinx myself, but like my cookie business of just decorating cookies is turning into this other business where I'm going to be teaching classes and teaching other people how to decorate the cookies because I think it's a good outlet. And then I'm turning it into like a brand. So like you two at home can have like all the gear you need to like do your own cookies and just have it be like a whole space. It's a whole thing. I just need like 10 acres to do like everything I want to do. But no, I didn't get much slack. I mean, if I did, it's like, really, now it's something else. But.
Right. And then like to follow up with Ray, since you asked the question, Ray, too, I bet you get to have some fun with those people in the beginning that were like, "You rap? What?" And like, I'm sure the music itself is an outlet for you, no doubt. That helps you deal with your thoughts, feelings, your emotions, your stress. Do you find that you've had any of the same things that Sadie's talking about, where it's like it's kind of become a job too, and you like really have to remind yourself when you're doing it for you?
I don't know. Like I don't. It's crazy because in my music I don't talk about me that much. Like I rarely talk about me, and like to go back to that point that I was making. Like I feel like I'm alive to tell the stories of those people who didn't make it. Like that's
awesome. Yeah.
So I feel like I have a mission, and that was the whole problem. That, and it applies to anybody, not just music, not just baking, not just running. It applies to everybody. Like an infantry dude without a mission, a fireman without a mission, a fish out of water. They don't have any like purpose. That's where the depression comes in. That's where the I want to kill myself comes in. That's where all the sadness comes in. But when you can give a veteran a purpose, that is when things get better. That's why we act so erratic sometimes, because we feel like we don't have a purpose. And then I specifically found it in music, and I was like, wow, I like this. It not only calms me down more than meditation, because for me, meditation doesn't work because it seems like there's just so much noise and just chaos or whatever still going on, and that's louder than any like silence I could ever have, which is weird. Like when I got back from Iraq and Afghanistan, I would have to watch scary movies to go to sleep because I needed the violence. I just needed it. It might sound crazy, but I needed to, it would even everything out because I just got used to it.
I sleep with headphones. I can't fall asleep if it's quiet.
So you know what I'm saying?
Doesn't happen. Yeah, 100%. I sleep with headphones. It annoys the shit out of my wife because she wakes up with them in her back, so on and so forth. But I understand that. I get that, because when you were deployed, especially in like a combat area and stuff like that, your brain never really shuts off. It's always in that mode where like shit might go down at this moment. And then in the submarine too, when I was on subs, we worked 18-hour days, and I think I slept 3 to 4 hours every single night, right? But you're constantly ready for a drill. We're underwater. If something happens, like you got to be ready to go. Man. And so for 6 to 8 months, your brain is turned all the way up all the time. Hyper. Until you get exhausted, and then you pass out. Then you come back around. I remember going like 2 days without sleeping at all, pass out for 4 to 5 hours, wake back up, complete the same thing. And in the submarine, you never see daylight. So it's, if the lights are on, it's apparently daylight outside. If the lights are off, nighttime outside, and that was how, it's such a weird environment to deal with that. So even now I carry some of that stuff with me. I slept with headphones on the submarine because that's the only way I could distract myself from what was going on inside the submarine in order to put myself to sleep. You know what I'm saying? I would throw The Office on and fall asleep with it running. That's what I would do. But yeah, it's the same thing. Like, we almost have to distract our minds away. But it all, what else it does? It helps me not relive shit that I had to do or that I saw that I'm not 100% comfortable with, or that I wouldn't wish other people had to do. It helps distract that.
And I think if we're looking at it from the Project Red Team aspect of kind of all of that stuff pulled together, and I say it, and it's one of those things where, like, when you feel it, you get it, why people talk about it all the time. But having those simple conversations, I mean, I obviously have never experienced the need to watch scary movies to fall asleep. But there are definitely aspects of my life that I've been able to say out loud. I mean, I can truthfully say, and Sadie, I don't mean to make you blush on the screen, but meeting Sadie and learning about her story and her body positivity work with R.E.D is the reason that I was able to publicize and open up and come to terms with living with an eating disorder. I had never said it out loud before. And so getting to cross intersections through Project Red Team and meeting her and getting to have those conversations, it changes. And Josiah David is someone that we had on a happy hour who's an Air Force vet. And God, the way that kid thinks just blows my fucking mind every time I talk about him or to him. But he made this comment about, if we have these thoughts and we detach ourselves from them and take away our identities and take ourselves and look at those thoughts, then we're able to better process them and have those conversations and do those things. And I think that when we're looking at Project Red Team and we're coming together, not only are we coming together as people of an underrepresented population, people who only get certain viewpoints of them publicized, but you're also bringing together people who are at the point in their journey where they're able to detach that thought from their story, but also people who are just coming into it. And it's almost like and I talked about this on TMR's Live a couple days ago, I think it was election night, but it was like, that's why multi-level marketing is so successful, because people get passionate about it, then they pass the passion down and pass the passion down and pass the passion down. And so essentially getting to save why your life matters and why you should live on this earth and let me tell you and hype you up all the time is just a thought that I never would have imagined having the opportunity to do, especially in the military community, where it's kind of like, listen, you stay your path, you do what you're supposed to do, and like, that's it. But then also simultaneously, there's a group of people that I would never want to cook buffalo chicken dip with anybody else on a weekend watching football. Like, it's just an experience that you can't, like, even some of like my friends, when I cook buffalo chicken dip, I'm like, it's not the same. Like, it's just not the same. And so if we can even build a piece, and I love that both Ray and Sadie are smiling because they know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm sure Ryan is doing it on the other side of the thing too. There's a camaraderie that's unlike it anywhere else. And I will fight to the battle for that. I like how much I believe in that. And so if we even get to build a piece of that tribe, and it all stemming from conversations that we thought would take us away, like I've said before, Project Red Team has done its job. And again, it's 3 months. We're just getting started, my guy.
Well, and along that, we're just getting started. Next week, 11/11, Veterans Day. Is there anything that you wanted to tell people, Kenedey, about Project Red Team?
Yeah, so there's this like crazy thing called social media, right? I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it. But I'm very excited and nervous and all of the things that Project Red Team is going to be Hope for the Day's first autonomous program to have its own social media for its programming and conversations. And happy hours will now be on a public platform to be shared across everywhere. And people can come and join us on this Facebook page and on our Instagram page and come into our private Facebook group community, connect with more people, have more conversations, meet and do more things. So Veterans Day, I promise you will not miss it. We will be launching, it will be at Project Red Team on everything. Facebook will be Project Red Team at Hope for the Day. Instagram will be Project Red Team. And I'm really excited to only bring a glimpse of what our group has been able to do. I mean, it's been, like Ryan said, we started in July, we're at almost 500 members, and we hit almost 200 in our first, not even 2 weeks. And so that is going to be special. But if I'm not mistaken, that's not the only cool thing we're doing, Ryan. Am I making that up in my head, or is there something else like sort of cool, kind of, whatever happening?
There's something really cool happening. But I want to ask TMR first. I want to ask you the daily stream thing that you do starting at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time every day on your Instagram at the Marine Rapper, everybody. How did that come about? Is that something that you just started doing and caught on like wildfire?
Okay, let's do this. Let me tell you how it happened. So I was going live on IG, and I noticed I wasn't being very disciplined with it. And I don't just think like a rapper. I want to get my life together. I look up to like Dre, Diddy, all the like hip hop moguls, Jay-Z, Eminem. I'm like, yo, how are they getting to that point? I want to get to that way younger. You know what I mean? So I know I have to use my time wisely. So I was like, yo, this hour plus something, unless I'm speaking to Kenedey, this whole hour on hour type of live chat needs to stop. So I was speaking to my live coach. It's like, oh, why don't you just set a time, right? So I've been working on this, but concurrently, I was also putting out music. So I put out this song called the song called World War Cypher, which featured Shaggy and a whole bunch of other military veterans, like on my label and my platform and stuff.
Casually Shaggy.
Yeah.
Shaggy.
Yeah, casually like the song isn't fucking amazing either.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't him.
It wasn't me. So at the end, I know I'm like the final boss, so I have to make some grandiose statement. Because I just have to. I have this opportunity. I'm on Earth for another day, so I have to say something. So in collaboration with my buddy from Veteran with a Sign, he's a guy who holds up a whole bunch of signs and it has this crazy message on it every single time. I was like, yo, it'd be dope. And I wanted to surprise him. So I didn't tell him at first. And I just recorded this music video called World War Cypher, where I'm holding up a sign, a cardboard sign. And it's basically dissing push-ups, that push-ups aren't working. And it said push-ups ain't going to stop their death. Yeah. So I post the picture on the social media. The whole veteran community gets so mad about this whole thing. Like, what do you mean push-ups aren't working? Da, 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 da. And I'm like, you guys are arguing with me when you could be talking to a buddy right now. Why are you here? Right. Like, why are you here? And I was just like, yo, you're here because it's a big ticket thing. And somebody needs to tell you guys how it is. And we need to save more lives. And I am the person to do it, I guess. Like, that's when I realized. I was like, oh man, this never been my thing. I was always into hip hop music and talking about suicide prevention, but not really like doing as much as I can, I think. So when I held up that cardboard sign that push-ups ain't going to stop their death, so many people were coming at me, and I was like, you know what? I know what'll help is I'll talk to people every day, regardless of what I'm doing, from 10 a.m. to 10:22 a.m. about whatever they want to talk about. I don't care if they're liberal, conservative, black, white, short, tall, fat, skinny, whatever. I don't care. I want them to be different, young, old. I want them to be different. So I started doing it for a couple days, and I was like, oh wow, this is working. I'm used to it. And then I started doing a couple more. I was like, oh, I can do this all the time. And then I was like, you know what'd be dope? If every month on the 22nd, we had a live marathon where a whole bunch of people from different demographics actually join in on this live, like a relay. So I go live, and then somebody else goes live, somebody else goes live, somebody else goes live. And that's how that whole 22 minutes a day live came about. And then in that whole thing, I ended up meeting Kenedey in the whole thing because she was one of the guests on one of my people's lives. And then ever since then, boom, like we just been doing some great stuff. And I definitely want to get more people involved because this is a monthly thing. Every month on the 22nd, we have 22 people go live for 22 minutes each, and we touch so many different lives, and we talk about whatever we want to talk about, and we just make sure everybody's good. And I've talked to everybody from really smart people to really buff people to really creative people, really political people, and they keep on saying the same thing. It's the human interaction that they're missing because suicides have been going up. I talked to a bodybuilder because I was like, yo, homeboy, tell me. And this guy is yoked. Like, this guy is like, he's yoked like an ox. Like, for real. He's yoked like AA eggs. He's yoked, right? So he got on, he had like the muscle on his shoulders was like my muscles combined. Like, So he was like, yo, what's up? Tell me about what he's doing about the fitness and doing remote fitness. So I was like, let me ask you a question. He's like, yo, what's up, little man? I'm like, yes, I definitely am a little man compared to you. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me. He's like, hey, what's up? And I said, hey, does fitness stop suicide ideations or suicide? He's like, no, it's actually probably worse because the body dysmorphia and all the fitness depression. And if you in the fitness world, you probably are at more risk. And I was just like, so push-ups really don't help as much as talking. He's like, yeah. I was just like, there you guys go. I was just like, you guys are mad at me over the 22 push-ups diss or whatever. But like the fact of the matter is we need to talk to our buddies and not make everybody feel like they're not good enough when they are. So I make sure, you know, I compliment people. And it's crazy. Now we've had people open up that I never thought would open up. People are like, oh, I'm shy and I've never spoken before, hopping on. There's men talking about their feelings.
Hell yeah.
I cry too.
You saw
Hell
it, right, Kenedey?
We love it when a man cries.
They're crying. I cried twice on that live marathon. I was bawling like a little.
There's power in our vulnerability. There is power in leading with empathy, for sure.
So that's how it all. So that's how it all came about. Was that whole? It started from a music video and me holding up a sign, basically. And now I talk every day, 10 a.m. to 10:22 a.m. PST time. Everybody can come by, join me for a live, and have some fun.
That's amazing.
What's really cool, Ray, though, is that even though you got flack, because I've been saying this something very similar for a while now, but the push-ups brought attention to it. Everybody knows the number, right? It's what you do after the push-ups, right? And we aren't seeing any follow through on that for the most part. We aren't seeing it from our leaders. We aren't seeing it from ourselves. We aren't seeing it from our community, so on and so forth. So then you raising that sign, you restarted the conversation, right? A bunch of people got pissed off at you, which is one of my favorite things when I say something that I know is just logical. It's on point. I lived it. I know what the fuck I'm talking about. You can come at me sideways, but you're not budging me off of this pedestal I'm standing on, because I'm saying something in a way that maybe you didn't think of before. And now you're forced to think about that. And it's probably not going to be very comfortable. And I think that's what really is starting to push this thing. I think that's why Red Team is super effective in the success that we're seeing, is that we're saying and doing shit in a way no one else is really doing it. Mike, you can attest to this.
Well, yeah, I mean,
mental health education and suicide prevention it's all retroactive. It's all when somebody ends up in a hospital or somebody kills themselves, or we see on the news that Chester Bennington's dead. That's when people started giving a shit. What about before that?
People get mixed up. They get mixed up with the what being awareness, when the what needs to be fucking action. We're all aware. We need to figure out what's the problem. What's the why, right? And we need to work out from that. And the problem is that nobody feels comfortable asking for help. That's the main common thread for everybody. And that's why it's so important what TMR is doing, getting people to talk. And people sometimes got to warm up. They got to come back Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They might be like, all right, I got some feelings, you know.
As someone who's been on there 3 times in the last week, it's always consistent numbers. I mean, there's always people coming back because TMR has built that community. And I think that, you know,
it's realness.
And we talk in PRT, and TMR and I have talked over the last couple of days, but if you look at everything from a large scale world point of view, then it's going to be hard for you to really understand. So to some, his message was canceling 22 push-ups. He wasn't canceling. He's saying you doing the push-ups is not providing action to stop these people from taking their life. They're saying, hey, listen, I recognize that you are having suicidal ideation. I recognize that you're struggling with your mental health. My 22 push-ups is telling you that I know you're sitting in that space, but I'm not actively doing anything to change it. So if you're doing 22 push-ups on Facebook, tag Project Red Team. If you're doing 22 push-ups, tag peervention.org so people can come get educated. It's all about planning a call of action while you're doing these things, which is why I think that marathon on the 22nd of every month is, I mean, for other reasons, is going to make the impact that we're hoping to make, and changing the narrative behind the awareness. Yes, we're aware the issue exists. What now?
Here's another way to look at it.
Yeah.
Ray, here's another way to look at it.
Yeah.
If 22 push-ups a day, or 22 push-ups at all, stopped suicide, at all mental health facilities, they'd be in there doing fucking push-ups and then walking out the fucking door. Guess what's not happening at fucking mental health institutes? They aren't doing fitness programs.
I mean, my brother is a physical trainer. I don't know if you saw, I've been doing like skits on those too. Like he was like, I don't want to give it away, but if you look at my page, we like actually did a whole like a skit on that, of the visual of how it looks. Like when
Right.
somebody says, I'm not feeling good, and somebody does push-ups for you and how it looks. And I really see some flack for that. But the point that that I want to say is, it's not that people were mad that I was attacking the push-ups. It was like I was attacking their identity.
Right.
Their like identity of, I'm supposed to have a beard, I'm supposed to drink beer, I'm guns and bacon and boobs, and this is what I'm about. I'm veteran, and you know, this shirt with the American flag on my sleeve. Like, they're mad because they felt like their identity was getting taken away by somebody who's the unicorn of the community. Like, I don't even fit in this thing. Like, you know what I mean? So people look at me like, yo, you don't look like any of us. And some guy who has the credentials telling them about themselves, they can't say anything back to because they know I was there. So they're just like, oh, I can't really do anything. But the fact of the fact is that a lot of the men, what they were telling me was that they didn't feel comfortable being individuals within this community. So they were going to that one like identity of the beer, the guns, and the boobs and the bacon identity. And if a person like me who's outside of those identities telling everybody that is, you know, that is only one identity, you can have other identities. That's why they got mad, and that's why they're feeling uncomfortable. And I'm telling them, you can be emotional, you can cry, you can, you know, can say, you know, you look good to, you know, your homie or whatever like that. You can say these things. You can be open. You can be emotional as a man. And I'm saying this, so they're just like, what are you? I don't get it. And then the same people who are like, oh, 22 push-ups a day, we need to save our buddies, are the same ones that were calling me a punk on my page because I said I felt a certain way. I'm like, that's that toxic mentality. You're calling me a punk, but you're telling me to open up and tell you that I wasn't feeling any good. But now I'm scared to come to you because you're going to call me a punk regardless. And that's how a lot of men are feeling. That's how a lot of men are feeling.
That's a big thing too. All of us on here, with what we do, Ray, with you rapping, Sadie, you're a body positive model. Kenedey, you're not in the military community, but you're pretty much running this shit, right? Mike, what you're doing, you all came in this from a civilian. We've all received flack for what we're fucking doing because we're doing it differently and we're loud about it. How do you handle, how would you tell somebody to keep going? Sadie, I want to bring it to you because I think this fits yours real well here. Also, Sadie, real quick before, how about the fact that every time I watched you shoot, you beat a bunch of dudes who were also veterans. You were a better shot than everybody on that line.
Yeah, the Marines were more hurt about it than anyone. Like, publicly really hurt about it.
The dig, Ray.
My surprise face is 404 error cannot be found.
But how do you tell people to keep going? Because you guys lived it. You did it. Sadie, you were on a fucking 2,000-foot billboard in the middle of Times Square. I saw that shit. You were in your underwear. Okay.
I got a lot of crap for, especially once I gained like couples of thousands of followers on Instagram with the whole posting my story for like the 100th time, because new people who came to my page didn't know that I've always been very vocal on my military experience. So all these new people joined in, and then we're also like, oh my God, you just shared your story. How dare you put your body out there where I can see your skin? Like, obviously you have no respect for yourself, so we have no more respect for you. Like, I got that, like, honestly, probably like 20 times. And I was always just like, okay, well, it never hurt my feelings because I think my skin is just thicker. But at the same time, it's just like, I think when it comes to the internet, people just don't have a filter. And especially now with COVID, I think a lot of people have lost their ways to communicate and to like socially interact and what's okay to say and what's not.
They're speaking from pain that they've just isolated over the last couple months, which is why it seems so much more prominent for sure.
Yeah, I agree. But my response was always like, okay, that's great. But like, for body positivity wise, and for just a woman in general, or a man, anyone in general, about their bodies, my main point is we can do whatever we want to. Literally, I can do whatever I want with my body. You can do whatever you want with your body. If you don't like being modest or being out, whatever it is, you do what you want, and you can't tell anybody else what you can do. So like, it was like a whole, it's just understanding. So to me, I just would speak my piece, and if they didn't like it, there's an unfollow button. For some reason, people like to not hit it. Don't know why.
I think that's a big deal. I think you have to be comfortable with the fact that we aren't going to make everybody happy. Like, you can't be 100% 100% of the time. That's not fucking logical. And it's okay if people don't like you. That's okay.
Yes.
I'm not here to
Yes.
make everybody happy, you know? And I think a lot of people aren't comfortable with that. I think they want to be liked by everybody. I'd much rather hang out in my house by myself and hide from the world because I enjoy it that way. I also have PTSD, and that could be a reason for that. But you don't have to have everybody. And that goes from your direct family all the way to the stranger down the street.
Yep.
You can
Yeah,
cut out bad people from your life, and your life will become better.
Yeah. And I think it also comes back to just authenticity too. Like for me, that's a big deal with me, and I'm very myself. And I think I've gotten more comfortable with that also, to like, even like with today's issues or anything, like I just feel very comfortable now speaking how I feel. I do be respectful to like other people, or if they don't feel differently, I don't put hate out there, but I will put how I feel about anything. And if you don't like it, don't like it. But me being authentic makes room for all the other people who just don't feel safe to be their authentic self. So I've come to like this weird thing, especially on social media, where I'll get like messages from people being like, I am so glad that you're using your voice for XYZ. And then I'm like, oh, well, join the club. Like, I'm so glad you're here too. So
Well,
that's just been cool.
I think that's where if you know, as we come to like the ultimate, yeah, freak yeah, we're doing it. If we look at TMR's marathon, that this, what it's doing is it's bringing a bunch of people who are in that place of comfort with their story, who they are, whatever it may be. Because each one of those, I mean, the woman that I was on with, so originally I was supposed to be with DCure, who is another part of the Space Force, which is a group that TMR is a part of. And he ended up having to evacuate his home from the fires, the Colorado fires. And so I jumped on with this woman I never met before, named the Tactical Travel Nerd. Never met each other, had similar but different stories about times being a military spouse. And it really just brought this perspective to me that like, she talked about being a military spouse. I was able to talk about being a military spouse. How many other people are now going to be able to do that? And 22 minutes after we were done, were probably people talking about their service. 22 minutes after that was probably somebody talking about their nonprofit. And so having all of these people, not only, you know, yes, they're bringing awareness by participating, but their contribution to the action part of it is telling their story. Their action is telling their story and providing a place for people to feel comfortable. And I don't know about you guys, but I heard that the marathon was like gonna get even cooler, but that's just like that's just what I hear, and I just like listen to the birds sometimes.
Oh, were you gonna be a part of it? Is that why it's gonna be cooler? Or?
I mean, anything I'm a part of is obviously really cool because here we are. But
yeah,
I don't know. I'm just going with what the birds tell me.
Well, ultimately, let's get to that announcement, because you know we could take this conversation for hours and hours, because we're just scratching the surface. There's a lot of salient points that I want to draw to as we kind of start to wrap things up, and that's that we have to meet people where they're at. We have to meet them where they're at, not where we expect them to be. So if somebody's kind of got some fucked up ideas right now about their mental health, that doesn't mean that they're like this like static thing. You can keep showing the way by leading by example, by sharing your story in ways that are, you know, championing that resiliency and the fact that we can overcome some shit. And that if you've been in a dark place and then you've gotten to see the other side, that story can become extremely powerful and helpful to other people that might have a lot of stigma surrounding them, their family, their school, their command, whatever the fuck it is, making them feel like they can't speak on it. So you never know how far that message is going to travel that might pop up from, you know, doing an ad in Times Square and being a body positivity model and giving so many other ladies, or, you know, anybody of any gender, the comfort to be themselves, to express themselves fully, because we're not a monolith. We're not all the same. And even though in the military, there's a lot of parallels, you're all unique human beings with a lot of unique parts to it, a lot of unique experiences, both before the military service, during and after, right? So
I happen to put on that really scratchy uniform every morning.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Fuck yeah.
I know about y'all, but our uniform is the best. So
and I think that this is the perfect opportunity to talk about the fact that on Veterans Day next week, we are going to launch Project Red Team social media. We are going to have a streamed conversation between me, Kenedey, and Ryan about not being a token veteran, and how a lot of times people can kind of already make this big old jump based on your status, that one tiny piece of your intersection. And that can often feel like they're leaving out a whole other part of you, right? A whole lot of other pieces of you. So tune in for that conversation. Join the Project Red Team digital community, that private Facebook group, because that can make you feel a little more comfortable in starting to share your story in a proactive way. And then I am very, very pleased to share my screen right now with you to make this announcement. Speaking of the Marine Rappers Suicide Prevention Marathon each month on the 22nd of each month, every 22 minutes from 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, TMR's live marathon for suicide prevention on Instagram will be in partnership with Hope for the Day, because we want to answer that so what. Cool, we're talking. Cool, we're normalizing. Cool, we're giving people these tools to do it themselves and push the ball forward. But we need to make sure that we are inspiring our communities to take action, to get educated. So at the end of the marathon this month, as they wrap things up and you get all hype with TMR, you can head on over to our Project Red Team education directly following the marathon, and you can register in advance for that at peervention.org, as you can see right here on the ad. And you're going to hear a bunch of people's stories throughout the day, and you can tune in at whatever time is convenient for you so that you can see what we're talking about. This is real shit, and you need to know about it because it could be potentially helpful for you or somebody that you care about. And just to give you just that little bit of extra information, this is the Project Red Team education. We roughly run about 90 minutes, let's be honest, because there's a lot of discussion that can be spawned in an organic way. But this is an experience, an education experience designed and operated by peers from military and first responder communities, including that family piece. So please sign up to join us. We're going to be able to highlight our community partners at YWCA who help make Tiny Boots happen through the Illinois VA, which is free childcare for veterans that have job interviews or medical appointments to attend. We're going to be talking about that resource. And we're also going to be just continuing to champion this partnership with TMR. Ray, can I just be the first to thank you for utilizing your platform for action to inspire hope in your community? And is there anything we should be aware of going into this month's marathon? You got any things that you want people to know about?
I'm always dropping music, so it's not even a thing. We're dropping a group album. You guys can always just find me at the Marine Rapper if you guys want to be a part of this movement, this platform. I know there's a lot of people out there who use music as therapy. So if you got skills, definitely hit me up at the Marine Rapper and we can get a purpose for you. So it doesn't matter if you play the flute, guitar, saxophone, it doesn't matter. Now we have all genres, not just rap. We have everything now. So if you just want an outlet or play or just hang out with the group and stuff like that, and like our Zoom calls and things like that, definitely hit up the Marine Rapper there. Also, since it's an internet little marathon there, I thought, don't we need some type of cookies? I always hear about cookies on this internet stuff. So Sadie's I brought my own cookies. No, but for real, I want to rope in Sadie on this one and see if she wants to be part of this marathon. Yeah. If she would host one of these marathon slots, that would be cool if we could do that. Bring her in. She'll bring the cookies with her, so we won't have to accept any.
Hell yeah!
Hey. I think it's really cool to add to, from the way that I looked at it when we were all developing this together, is you're going to spend from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time listening to people tell their stories. And when you're dropping into this education at the end of that evening, that's your opportunity to share your story if you've gotten comfortable. You get to navigate all of these people's stories throughout the day. And this is the 22nd of every month. You could attend November through December of next year and then finally be ready to share your experience in the education. But that's what's magical about this collaboration is on the surface, it looks like a bunch of people coming together, but the reality of the situation is we're building that bridge, that gap of where we think it's not okay to talk. And so you have the comment sections of all of these people who are going to be participating in the marathon. If I'm not mistaken, each marathon right before the education will end with Project Red Team and Ray on Instagram together. And it's just a really cool opportunity to not only hear all of these stories, because I'm sure they'll be different every month, but also as you start to listen to people get comfortable, that education will be a safe place at the end of every one of those marathons to come in and resonate and to get educated and to learn how to learn about yourself, learn how to meet yourself where you are and understand that mental health is not a hierarchy, it's a spectrum. And so we want you to climb up whatever box you feel like you're maybe at the bottom of, or climb down from whatever box you think you're at the top of, and just kind of come hang out on this slide with us, you know, bring some snacks. We obviously are going to have cookies.
I actually had people who said they've been watching me for years and they felt comfortable finally after years. So I'm like, what? And they just they're like, I don't comment much. I don't usually do anything. I just felt like I should come on and come on live with you, even though, you know, it's been years and I finally felt comfortable. So you never know. It may be one day and it may be a year. But you never know who's watching. So that's why it's important to just keep on doing you and being you. Just like Sadie was saying, don't worry about the haters, just be you and keep it moving. Yeah. And then eventually they'll respect it. That's what happened. Like, at first, they didn't respect it at first, you know, the path that I was taking, and Sadie could probably attest to that, the path that I was taking. And then when they were like, oh, he's not stopping. Okay, 2 years, 5 years. Okay, wow, this is something like really, this is serious. This is not just the game. So I feel like if we just stay consistent and we stay with it, we're going to make it through. And it comes down to self-awareness and finding your mission. And I feel like we're all going to be okay.
Yeah. And I'm going to use Ryan Shannon-ism real quick. We need to retrain how we fight this particular fight. And we can only do that through education. Education is the core of every revolution. We're changing, shifting this dialogue so that people can have it long before they hit that crisis stage, so they can get linked up with things that can help them on their path to being resilient, to being in a place of recovery, and to feeling, you know, fulfilled. That's all we deserve. And I love that this connection with you, Ray. It's just so hope for the day, man. Because from the very beginning, Johnny lost his boss and mentor to suicide, and he took that pain and he turned it into something positive for other people. He started this battle cry in the music venues, on the stage, speaking before bands and being like, yo, if you're having a good day, you're having a bad day, life's kicking you in the ass, I don't care. If you're thinking of harming yourself or you're having thoughts of suicide, come to me in the back of the venue, come talk. And that was like this little spark that has continued to grow and grow and grow. And we've gotten to turn some really cool pages this year, starting Project Red Team officially in May 2020, starting the digital community in July, and doing monthly education where we've gotten to share so many stories with so many people. And now to be able to check off something that was something we had our sights on, partnering with you, the Marine Rapper, because it's so core to the Hope for the Day ethos. It's music, and it's, hey, we're going to say whatever we want to say, even if it ruffles some feathers, because this is what we believe. This is what we believe is true. And this is what we believe will prevent further loss of life. And that's it, you know? And that's why I just think it's so rad that we can join forces this month. And I can't wait to see some of the stuff leading up to the 22nd this month on both our platforms to kind of keep that hype going. So let's wrap things up tonight. And let's just some parting words. We'll go around parting words from each of you if you want to let people know where to find you. And then we had the pleasure of ending tonight's broadcast with Star Spangled Banger, which I'm pretty pumped about. Really solid music video.
What is that? Never heard of it.
And this is music from the Marine Rapper, Kenny busting some balls. Parting words. Why don't you start us off, Sadie? Where can people find you? What do you want to leave people with tonight? Kind of how can we be better? how can we be a part of what better can look like, and where can people find you?
Yeah, my parting words I always feel like are the same, and I don't care if I'm on repeat, is always be authentic, always use your voice. Your voice sometimes is hard to find, but it's so powerful for yourself. It's freeing for you, and it's freeing to others. Like you said, you say something and you have no idea all the impact that it does for people that you don't even know are watching. And I just think that's so important for connections, for yourself, for everyone. You can find me on the gram at Sadie Strong. I'm there. I answer DMs. I share stories daily, more than daily. I'm on my stories. So join me.
How about the cookies? Where the
Oh,
cookies
and
at?
my cookies. I always forget that people like me for that. So my cookies are Say Delicious, SAY Delicious, and it's also like my name because it's cool. Yeah, on Instagram also, and you can go to saydelicious.co, and that's my website where you can do like custom orders or classes, anything.
That's so kick-ass. Thank you for always bringing that authenticity. It's been really awesome getting to know you over the last couple of weeks, and I'm excited to have you lead some of this education and in the future opportunities. All right, Ray, parting words. How can we be part of what better can look like as well?
Show up to the live. Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude. Hell yeah.
Show up to the daily live at 10 a.m. to 10:22 a.m. PST at the Marine Rapper everywhere. And that's pretty much it. Like, I just want to help people. I just want to talk to people, and I want to just, share some stories and make people feel better and tell them that they're special too. And that's pretty much it.
Love your vibe, man. And it's been really, really awesome to talk tonight. Thanks for being part of this conversation. Kenedey and Ryan, would you like to have some parting words?
Yeah, we'll let the big man finish last so he can go out with the
big
single
man
bang, if you will.
Cool.
But I just hope that through this, maybe some of our normal audience members got to see a little bit more about Project Red Team and realize that all parties are welcome. There's no qualifying factors. You don't even have to have a family member. If this is just a community or a presence or an outlook that you have always respected or wanted to be a part of, we welcome you with open arms. Project Red Team is our group on Facebook. Please join us. So much camaraderie, so much happiness in that group at all times. If you just need to be hyped up, let's get hyped up. If you need music suggestions, come get some music suggestions. Your pain doesn't have to be the thing that silences you. It can be the catalyst to changing the rest of your life. And if you need to start by hearing other people give you that confidence, let us be that. And Ryan has said previously, and other people have said, the military, you in law enforcement, all of these EMS, you function on the authority of other people. So if you need the authority to come and let yourself go, let us be the authority. We give you the okay to recognize the hardest parts of yourself and work through them and become a better version of you. Because I genuinely would not be here without Ryan or Mike or Sadie and now TMR, even though it's been such a short period of time. So if I know the impact they can make on my one, even though I'm 5'10", small life, I know that they can do so much for other people. So Ryan, why don't you drop some wisdom bombs on them?
All right, I got it. So here's my parting words for this. We're called Project Red Team for a reason. That word team is the most important part of our name. And the Army doesn't win wars. The entire military wins wars. The cops don't show up to situations on their own. They do that in a teamwork fashion. Firemen put out fires as a team. We're only going to stop suicide. We're only going to help mental health as a team. You heard 5 people talk tonight pretty openly about their demons and things like that. And if you're not ready, that's okay. But we want you to be a part of the team. We're going to end this thing, and we're going to put a huge dent into it, even if we can't fully end this thing as a team. That's it. It's not going to be Ryan Shannon. It's not going to be Mike Venipol. It's not going to be the Marine Rapper or Kenedey Ward or Sadie Strong. It's going to be a team of people that do this. And Mike said it multiple times too. I just had a TVI moment. That's not what Mike said. That's what I'm saying. Sorry. Mike said this earlier. I don't know where my line of thinking was going there. I apologize. But come be a part of this group. You're seeing it happen right now. And every time we do this education and every time we get to interact with people who are becoming part of this group, I'm learning more, but I'm also hearing a lot of people be open about their traumas and things like that. just know we're here for you too. Every single person on this call, everyone watching, the group's wide open. If you can't get a hold of one of us, if you have our numbers, go to the group. It worked this week. We watched it happen right in front of our eyes. I started this thing to use my story to end or to stop one person from making the choice. We've greatly exceeded that. Every single one after that is just another piece that makes me feel a little more complete and makes my story feel a little more helpful, you know. My final thing is, this was something that was said to me a while ago. The word ability is in disability. So some people start talking about mental health as a disability, or I have physical disabilities and so on and so forth. There's still that word ability in there. And that's what we need to focus on. What's your ability? What's your brand new? How do you move forward from this? How do you get it? Let us light that path for you. We might not be able to hold your hand and take you down it to the right direction, but there's a lot of people in here with a lot of stories that can light a lot of fucking paths to make that darkness just a little less dark. That's all I got. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely. And along those lines, if any of you listening now or at a later date are having thoughts that you are struggling with, there are people available 24/7 at National Emergency Resources that we have shared at our Find Help page. You simply just need to go to HFTD.org. That's Hope for the Day's website, and click Find Help, and you can search for resources, including but not limited to reduced cost, medical services, mental health, sliding scale, and all of this is designed so that you can find it near you, or you can find it near somebody you're looking to help and give hope to. So go to hftd.org, try out our resource compass, and if you have somebody in another country that you're looking to help, there are some international resources represented there as well. But thank you to all the hosts. Thank you for making this possible. Rick Osowski of Anthologies of Hope, Vicki Cisnett of the design team at Hope for the Day, Maisie Duncan, Angel Overton helping with the production team, and a big shout out to our consummate host, Carl Evans. We'll have him back again next week for our episode Sip of Hope. Be staying tuned to Anthologies of Hope for the audio podcast coming soon, and that'll be next week. And I'm going to leave you with the Star Spangled Banger from the Marine Rapper, so that you can go on, keep kicking ass wherever you're at, spreading hope and taking care of each other. Thank you again. Tune in every Thursday, conversationscafe.org, and have hope.
You might want to sit down for this. This is the new Star Spangled Banner. Let's go. Star Spangled Banner, my AKA. Red, white, and blue is the flag I wave. You and survey, we the biggest gang. Star Spangled Banner, my AKA. Star Spangled Banner, my AKA. Red, white, and blue is the flag I wave. You and survey, we the biggest gang. Star Spangled Banner, my AKA. Star Spangled Banner, my AKA. Represent USA every day. Not just Independence Veterans Day. Like most of you voters ain't all you fake. But still you don't wanna embrace me in. Because of my text in the shade of it. The old man once told me they'll kill me cause I'm educated. They hate it like they treat it. They yell BLM cause you messed it up. Once had a message, you fucked it up. I'm in the middle cause whites think I'm trouble and blacks call me Uncle Tom. What the fuck? 10 years I served as a Marine troop. Combat deployments I lived through too. College degrees and I'm still in school. Record is clean but I'm black, you won't kill me too. Star Spangled Banner, my AKA. Red, white, and blue is the flag I wave. You and survey, we the biggest gang. Star Spangled Banner, my AKA. Star Spangled Banner, my AKA. Red, white, and blue is the flag I wave. You and survey, we the biggest gang. Star Spangled Banner, my AKA. Star Spangled Banner, my AKA. Shooting from rooftops with infiltrate. They tried to kill us with AK spray, but we shot back like the rifleman. Gave up my youth and my soul to see. My daughter a kid, there's a hole in me. So none of you question my loyalty. The question is, where's your loyalty? 3,000 days, was that not enough? Decade I gave, was that not enough? The guns and the slugs and the blood on his clothes to the holes that I saw, was that not enough? I'm asking these questions of citizens in the same place that I'm living in. You say that I never did serve for you. If you feel that way, then fuck you too. Star Spangled Banner, my AKA. Red, white, and blue is the flag I wave. You and survey, we the biggest gang. Star Spangled Banner, my AKA. Star Spangled Banner, my AKA. Red, white, and blue is the flag I wave. You in survey, we the biggest gang. I'm the Star Spangled Banner. My AKA, living in America, so afraid. Swing that baton and they pass the blame. Monsters is running in every race. Monsters is coming in every form. Monsters is wearing our uniforms. People is looking to settle scores. You shoot us down like a fucking sport. Super Bowl, now you seem activist, but you do not have the sack for this. National anthem, I stand for it. None of y'all standing, but y'all mad at Kaepernick. Got love for Leos that keep us safe. Fuck all the ones who take that away. Fuck that third verse in the Star Spangled Banner. This my Spangled Banner. It's time for change. I'm just trying to live my life. I'm just trying to live my life. Ain't no love, ain't no love. I'm the Star Spangled Banner. I'm just trying to live my life. I'm just trying to live my life. Ain't no love, ain't no love. I'm the Star Spangled Banner. Hey, Francis Scott Key, you wrote a verse about Black Marines now. A Black Marine wrote a verse about you. Isn't that crazy? Karma's a bitch.